Hi, I'm Michelle O'Keefe, Head of Wealth Advisory at Goodbody, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Joe Prendergast. Joe is Head of Investment Strategy for Goodbody. Today we're going to have a chat about the recent volatility within the markets and how investors should approach it. So Joe.
Hi Michelle.
Hi. So there's been a lot of volatility in the markets this year. Now some of it obviously is thanks to the US tariff policy uncertainty, but what should investors keep in mind when they're dealing with ups and downs in the markets?
So in the market, as you said, there's a lot of ups and downs. There's usually a lot more ups than downs, which is the reason why we invest in the first place. So most of the time it's relaxed and plain sailing, but it's part of the market to have the downs. That's the definition of the return in exchange for risk. And the thing to really keep in mind, of course, when you're in the volatility, but also before that, it is part of the process. And the really key thing is to have a plan beforehand as to how you're going to deal with volatility as and when it comes.
That's really good, because I was going to ask you, what would you recommend that investors do? Do they adjust their portfolio or their overall positioning in times like this?
Yeah, so ideally not. And you can never say never, because sometimes in a period of volatility, an investor will realize that, maybe they should have adjusted their risk extension a little bit beforehand, but ideally not. What you really want to be able to do is sit through the volatility confident that you have the right set of objectives, the right strategy to get you where you want to be in the medium to long term.
I think we've seen a good example of that recently. What have we learned from periods of uncertainty? And you've pretty much said what we should do at that point in time. So we should take a little step back and make sure it is the right time to invest. I don't want to be putting words into your mouth.
No, you're absolutely right. And
summation.
No, you're absolutely right. And what we learn, from these periods of uncertainty is it's always uncertain. We're never certain. So, the things that triggered the volatility this year, they were not totally unexpected, but the whole market was kind of primed for the idea that the new US administration would be pro-growth and pro-stock market, and it just did not turn out that way. The shocks that we got were not anticipated on the scale that they did. So there's always uncertainty. Never invest with the idea that there isn't uncertainty. There is always uncertainty. And we learn that every time a little bit more.
That's good advice. Now I'm going to turn to the women angle on this one, Joe. So in your experience, do women invest differently? Do they invest differently from men, more importantly? And do you have any observations on that?
So I would say, number one, humans in general are not great at investing, because there's a behavioral element. People react, with emotion. That is generally a negative when you're trying to invest for the medium term, to have short-term reaction and emotion. There's a lot of work done pointing out that there may be differences between how men and women in aggregate behave, but I really think you cannot generalize. I have worked in my career with many women who are fantastic risk takers and brave and much better than men, lots of them, but it really varies by individual. I could say as well, we had a great experience recently. One of our graduates, we were talking about this idea of whether there is a difference between how men and women invest. And I was pointing out that a lot of the work suggests women are more risk averse. And they said, oh no, women are just more risk aware. And I think that was
great answer.
I think it's a great point to make. Men do behave a little bit differently in lots of aspects of life, and I think that does probably come out on average as well. But I would point to our own fixed income team, for example. We have an all-female fixed income team. We are, fantastic process. We've been outperforming. To me, there's no difference, but there probably are some small differences in traits, but only small.
Joe, thank you very, very much for your time.
Pleasure, Michelle.
And remember, if you have any questions, please reach out to us at investmentclub@goodbody.ie. Thank you.